I've been wanting to make something Mario related on the channel for a long time, but not just a simple figure review. I wanted to do something original and epic, and you guys really love mech armors. It might sound a bit weird, but let's build a Super Mario Mech. In this video, I'll show all my work, the entire creative process, how I started, what ideas I came up with, all the mistakes, the wins and the fails, all in one video. Let's not waste time and jump straight into it. This time I decided to start with the cockpit. I didn't want to use the standard cockpits we've seen many times in LEGO Mechs. I wanted to create something completely unique, new, and unlike anything else. I spent quite a bit of time on it and made several variations of the cockpit. Here's where I had the idea, using the same movable parts we usually use in mechs to create arms. Here, I used them to build the skeleton of the cockpit. So what is this Mario minifigure you've already seen sitting in the cockpit? I completely forgot to show you the set. Let's take a quick look. I bought the cheapest Chinese Mario set just for this video. In this set, we've got a pretty creepy Princess Peach. The plastic quality is actually decent overall, but the prints are very basic. Next up is Toad. Nothing special, just a typical cheap Chinese minifigure with a pretty average print. Then we've got the monkey, Donkey Kong. The same here, though I like his head. Next is Luigi, again a very basic figure. One of the Mario versions in a yellow cap with a messed up print. You can see it on the head. The letter M is totally off. And finally, our Mario, the one we're going to use inside the mech armor. I had an idea to make a full review of this entire set, but honestly it's such a boring set that doesn't deserve your attention or your money, so I decided not to focus on it. But for the mech, I'll be using this exact minifigure, since I don't have any others. I couldn't find any original LEGO Mario sets for sale in my city at the moment, so I had to settle for a fake LEGO version. But still, the main focus of this video isn't Mario, it's the mech. So let's keep building. Right now you can see that I've finally assembled the cockpit structure. Later on, I improved it a bit. Replaced this black panel with a blue one, added the back section, but you'll see all of that a little later in the video. For now, I wanted to show you the construction in more detail. So here it is. You can see it's held together using these movable pieces, the ones we usually use for arms. In the cockpit, I used 3 of these elements. I also managed to recreate the effect of suspenders and the yellow buttons on the overalls. It turned out really nice. I was immediately happy with how the cockpit looked. But before finishing it, I wanted to lock in the proportions. So I built a rough concept for the arms and shoulders. That doesn't mean I'll keep these arms. I'm just setting the proportions. You know how an artist lightly sketches the basic proportions in pencil first? I'm basically doing the same thing with LEGO. First the base proportions, and then the final design on top of that. For the hands, or more specifically, the fingers, I'll be using white pieces. As it turned out, I didn't have that many of them in my collection, and later on, you'll see me struggling to find more. So this is the final version of the hand I ended up with. The construction is actually very simple. It's slightly extended by one segment compared to standard LEGO mech hands. Mine is a bit larger. I could have added more bulk and made them more muscular, but I decided not to. It felt like Mario should keep a certain level of elegance. He's not exactly a brutal bodybuilder. Next, to figure out the proportions, I needed to build the legs, and I ended up spending a lot of time on them. At first I wanted to use the same parts we had in the LEGO Spider Mech set, the one where I built both the Venom Mech and the Spider Mech together. I also partially used that same set when creating my huge Spider Mech. That was in a previous video on the channel. In that one, I basically built the mech from scratch, so go check it out if you haven't seen it. I used that same piece here for the legs as well, so I had to take it apart.
Oh lol.
Then I freed up the parts for the legs. I quickly put together a set of legs I thought would fit the Mario Mech, but in the end I scrapped them. I just didn't like how they turned out. I spent quite a bit of time on this concept, so I figured I'd show you this failed version. I probably spent about an hour building these legs, and in the end I just wasn't happy with them, so I took them apart. Honestly, it was probably already evening and I was running low on creativity because I really didn't like those legs, so I got rid of them and went to sleep. Alright, moving on to the next day. This is what I had at that point, a finished arm and the cockpit. And here I decided to experiment. I started trying out legs from other figures. Here we've got a stormtrooper leg. Just look at how funny that looks. Here's a Wolverine leg, which we also built before. Also looks pretty funny. And here's a Hulkbuster leg. That one actually fits the proportions the best. It's not as long as the Wolverine one. Although I really liked the construction of the Wolverine leg, it was just too long. And that's when I got the idea to use a non-standard connection, like I'm showing now. Not a 2x4, but a 2x3. That way I could make the leg shorter and get it closer to the proportions I needed. At this point, I kind of got stuck. I just couldn't come up with a solid leg design. In the end, I decided to go with a construction similar to the one used in the Wolverine legs and many other builds. So I ended up with this kind of knee joint design, and the leg didn't turn out too long. I quickly set the proportions for the leg, and overall, everything looked pretty balanced.
Maybe.
Next, I'll need to cover the leg with blue pieces and add some design details. But first, I'm just building the skeleton of the second leg so I can see the full figure in proper proportions right in front of me. So I finished the second leg. Now let's move on to the boot. I actually came up with its structure yesterday, but now I decided to finish it. I made it more massive, but the overall concept of the boot is based on standard mech designs. And now let's cover the legs with blue elements and give them that finished armored look. This actually turned out to be one of the most fun parts. At first I thought just covering everything with pieces would be boring, but it turned out there's a lot of room for creativity here, with different ways to build and layer the design. Overall, I was really happy with how the legs turned out. Let me show them to you in more detail. Everything is pretty simple, but for some reason, the final result looks really cool. I'm genuinely satisfied with it. After that, I spent some time adding more detail to the shoulders. It's an important part after all. I also replaced this black piece on the lower torso with a blue one, and mirrored the arm. At the time, I couldn't find a white finger piece. I ended up finding it later and replacing it, but for now I used a gray one. You can actually see it in the frame right now, sticking out, but I'll swap it for a white one later. It turned out I didn't have enough pieces to fully cover the entire back with smooth blue elements, so I left it as it is. But overall, I'm really happy with how it turned out. This is the Mario Mech we ended up with. Overall, I really enjoyed creating this figure, so what do you think? Make sure to write in the comments what you'd like to see next. I read all of them and try to reply whenever I can. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video and don't forget to subscribe. It really helps. See you next time. Bye.